and welcome to the Magnet for Love podcast. Does the idea of meeting the man of your dreams feel impossible to you? We are here to help you. This is your host, Lorna Poole, sharing the secrets of men, love, and relationships so you too can succeed in love. Haven't found the one yet? Looking for some answers? Head on over to www.lornapoole.com to find out more. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Magnet for Love podcast. And I have something juicy for you today. What makes a man commit to one woman and the other lady is just for sex? What is that? Why does that happen? What's going on there? So with me today to answer this question for you is Frank. Frank Kermit and I are going to share the emotional needs of a man and what is making him tick to want to stay with you. Frank Kermit is a dating and relationship coach who has a private practice for couples and singles and is a matchmaker. He is the author of 20 books on relationships and 25 audio programs. He is a media correspondent for print, television, and radio, and for 15 years has refined his skills and expertise, developing and teaching his own original work based on his emotional needs theories and helping adults aged virgins enter dating. Frank, great to have you here.
Thank you for having me back. It's great.
Yes. So this is a question women ask all the time. And I remember being single, asking the same question.
I got to tell you, when I started this journey, my goal was to do things like get my ex-fiance back.
Yeah.
And
it's funny how we start like that.
Yeah, which actually I did. Her and I reconnected 7 years after our final breakup, and
Wow.
We were together for about 2-3 months. I got closure on that relationship. It was very healing. That was one of the things that started me on this journey. We talked about this in the last episode I was on with you. And I developed my system to understand the emotional needs of women. What makes a woman respond to a particular man for sex, relationships, or just for friendship. And at some point, I was getting a lot of questions from people saying, okay, you wrote about the emotional needs of women. What about the emotional needs of men?
Yeah.
As a man, I knew what it is I responded to, but I could never quite articulate it. I'd never taken the time to do that. My goal was to learn the emotional needs of women. I spent about 3 years researching that, journaling on that. But then I started to try to figure out, how do I articulate what my emotional needs as a man are? So I decided that I was going to take the same approach that I did with women, looking at what would it make me go ahead and commit. And when I looked at my mentors and friends, what would make the most notorious players finally settle down? What would make, why is it that some guys who were really nice, that for all of their lives they were looking for a girlfriend, and they finally find a girlfriend, and then before getting too serious, he gets cold feet? There had to be something. There had to be something that made the guy who could have any woman he wanted finally choose one, and why some men have no interest in ever getting married, no interest in ever settling down. And then sometimes they do. And then sometimes you figure out, why didn't that guy ever settle down at all? So
I think it's a woman's secret fantasy, and you probably know this already, to get that bad boy. He's a player, and then he meets this one woman, and he's just falls in love with her, marries her, and da-da-da.
That is a very strong fantasy for women, because that fantasy addresses her emotional needs. When we talked about the emotional needs of women in the last episode, one of the emotional needs that we talked about briefly was her fear of abandonment. She needs to feel that she's unique to him. Well, how much more unique can she possibly be to the guy to be the one woman who was his muse and turned it all around for him, that made him say, I'm not going to be a player anymore. I found the one woman that I want to make babies with and stay with. That addresses fear of abandonment. The fantasy of it, emotional range, emotion number 2. It's almost fairy tale like. Emotionally number 3, cater to the little girl in her. Women's fantasies are all rooted in the emotional needs of women that are satisfied through these fantasies.
That's interesting. So what are the emotional needs of a man then?
All right, let's start off with the unifying theory, okay? The one rule. In a man's world, you're either his ally or you're his enemy. You cannot be both.
Explain.
All right. If a man deems you to be an ally by addressing his emotional needs, that allows him to feel respected, and at that point, he can see you as commitment worthy. Now, we're not talking here, this is not an intellectual thing. This is an emotional thing. Emotional needs are not about what we like. Emotional needs are about what we respond to. So you're either an ally or you're an enemy. Why is it that a guy might date a woman for 5 years and they're having sex and they're together and they're a couple, but he won't cross that line? He won't cross that final line and put a ring on the finger. Why is that? Because on some level, he deems her not to be 100% his ally. There's some part of him that says, she's not my ally enough. There's a part of her that could turn into an enemy, and that's what's holding him back. So let's talk about the emotional needs of men, and we'll see just how it comes out. Now, emotional number 1 of women was protection of her reputation. This is something both men and women have in common. The emotional need of men, number 1, is protection of his reputation. Now, here's where it's different. What he really cares about in terms of his reputation is that he remains desirable. So and look, men just are taught from the time we're young and dating. Women are going to complain about you. She's going to tell her friends about you. She's going to constantly bash you when she's not happy. Well, men have just become accustomed to that, even though that behavior pattern is not a good behavior pattern for long-term relationship success. When I coach women, this is one of the things that I try to instill in them, that when you have a problem with the person you're intimate with, take it up with that person before you take it up with your friends and family. What is a man primarily concerned about with the protection of his reputation? He wants to know that you're not going to complain about him in a way that makes him appear less desirable. You want to complain about him to your girlfriends, complain about the fact that he's a workaholic, that he's very aggressive when it comes to his career, that sometimes he's just too stubborn, and when he puts his mind to something, he has to get it done and he ignores everything else. Because those are still attractive qualities. He's really stubborn. Well, that could be interpreted as assertiveness, an emotional need of women. He's got a great career and he's very dedicated. That represents good genes, an emotional need of women. These things will still make him desirable to other women. Don't complain about men by saying, he's such a wuss. He has zero ambition. He just doesn't want to do anything with his life. He's lazy. Because in the end, if you're going to be bashing the man you're with, don't forget that the next guy you tell this to, if he's a high-quality guy, if he's the type of guy you would want to be with long-term, his first question to you is, then why did you stay with him? It doesn't reflect well on you either as a woman.
So what are the other emotional needs?
Okay, emotional number two, quiet time. This is where a man must decompress. He wants his quiet time. For some guys, it's going into the basement and playing with his model trains or Star Wars action figures or comic book collection. It could be going out to the bar and having a drink with his friends to watch the hockey game. For some men, it's going into the woodshed and he just wants to work with wood and work with his tools. Whatever it is, his thing, whatever his thing for quiet time to settle his brain down is, that's what he wants. And the woman who's able to say, go have your quiet time, go have your fun, I don't need to be there, you just you go ahead and decompress, that's the woman that's more likely to get his commitment. Emotional need number 3 for men, and this is could be a big one actually, especially if he's gone through some sort of a trauma in his life. Can she mind the store? Is she the type of woman who can take care of things if he becomes incapacitated? If he's the type of man that goes on business trips often, can he trust her to take care of things in the home? Is there a bill that needs to get paid? Is there things that need to get done? Is there phone calls that have to be made? Can she take care of those things? For each man, each emotional need is going to be a little bit different. One may be more important than another. Can she mind the store really has to say, if I end up in the hospital for 3 months, will the rest of my life fall to pieces, or is she going to be there to take care of things until I can get back? Emotional need number 4. This is going to be a little controversial, so trigger warning. Compliance. If you're with a guy who's going to take charge, if you're with a guy who is assertive, what is he going to want in return? He wants compliance. Compliance does not mean blind obedience. Are there some men who are seeking blind obedience? Yes, there are. However, blind obedience is not safe for the woman, and it's certainly not safe for the man either. You can't trust someone who's blindly obedient. Compliance is when the guy takes charge and says, yeah, this is what we're going to go ahead and do. He wants to know that you've got his back. So I'm going to give you just a fun example, okay? Woman says, look, I really don't feel like cooking dinner tonight. What do you want to do? Guy says, okay, how about we go out to that new pizza restaurant? And she says, no, I don't want to. He says, fine, what do you want to do? She says, I don't know, you decide. Okay, he says, there's a great seafood restaurant that we go to pretty often. Why don't we go there tonight? She says, no, I don't want to. Guy says, okay, what do you want to do? She says, oh, whatever you decide. This is an example of she's saying, you take the lead, you be assertive, and then when he does take the lead and he is being assertive, doesn't comply.
I think women we like to think women can read our men can read our minds.
And that falls into which emotional need of women. What do you think, based on our conversation?
I need to go back to our list and see. Let me see. That would go into the little girl, maybe?
Yeah, cater to the little girl. So he should read our minds. He should know what we want because our parents knew what we wanted before we did.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And also, of course, when the guy doesn't read her mind, because, men don't have that superpower, and she gets to fight with him, she gets to say, no, well, you decide again.
That goes back to drama.
That goes back to drama. And this is why, when I tell women, maybe you're addicted to a little bit too much drama, and she says, no, I'm not into drama at all. And then I play out these scenarios, and she says, oh, maybe I kind of respond to the drama. I don't like it. Of course you don't like it. That's not what emotional needs are about. Emotional needs are not about what you like. They're about what you respond to. And if you are actively creating this drama, there's a reason for that. It's because on some level, on some emotional level, you respond to it. That's why the emotional need of men is compliance. Look, you want me to take charge? Great. Then give me 3 suggestions. I'll choose one. I'll be the assertive one. Give me 3 choices. I don't know. You decide. Fine, I'm deciding. Why do women love bad boys? Because the bad boy who initially says, let's go up to the pizzeria, and she says, no, I don't want to. It's the bad boy who says, too bad. You wanted me to choose. I'm choosing now, and that's where we're going. In fact, I'm leaving now. You don't want to come with me? That's okay. You can stay here. Wow, what a jerk. I can't believe he would speak to me that way. But she responds to the fact that he's being assertive. Because it's better. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to ask the other emotional needs.
Okay, other emotional needs. Let's keep going here. Emotional number 5. This is so important, ladies. This could make up to 75% of the reason that a guy would choose a particular woman for commitment. Here it is. Can you support his lifestyle? Can you support his lifestyle? And it's not just about his lifestyle right now. It's whatever lifestyle he may be planning for the rest of his life. Let's say he's looking to be a corporate executive and the lifestyle that goes along with that. Can you handle being present and being able to behave at charity events that he's going to have to bring you to? Can you support the sexual lifestyle he wants to set up? Whether it's a very strictly monogamous lifestyle where neither one of you is allowed to be in the same room as someone of the opposite gender, or a sexual lifestyle involving consensual non-monogamy, having partners outside of the primary relationship and working that out. Can you support that lifestyle? If he wants his children raised a certain way, can you support that lifestyle? If he wants to live in a certain area of the city, and then when he retires, he wants to live in another area of the city, can you support that lifestyle? The more you demonstrate that you can back him up and support that lifestyle, the more he will deem you to be an ally. The less you're able to do that, he'll deem you to be an enemy. See, for a man, it's not about, I'm in love with her and I'm going to give everything up. He's more likely going to commit to the woman that can support the lifestyle he wants, even if in other areas, maybe she's not 100%.
Okay. And what are the other 6 to 10?
Here we go. Next emotional need. Can she be the secret keeper? Can he trust her with his secrets, his vulnerabilities, those things that he can't tell anyone else? If she happens to find out, is she going to be able to restrain and refrain from telling her friends, her family, bringing up at the gossip table? You got to understand something. Men, as we are raised, are taught to be very private. And if you share something with one person, you better be ready to deal with it publicly. So knowing how much women share with other women, how much women will share with these men, when a guy says, oh, tell me things about your exes. And then, of course, oh, somebody wants to listen to me. Somebody wants to talk. This is great. Guys, record all this. Guys, remember that, you told me things about your past relationships that I did not need to know. So I'm going to be mindful of this if I get serious with you or not. The mythical mistress, okay? That mythical mistress that every man fantasizes about. A key aspect of that mythical mistress is that he can confide in her, that she is truly the ultimate secret keeper. That's what men want about the mythical. But it's not because of what she looks like, because if he's already thinking about a mistress, he's thinking about having her being a kept woman, paying the money. He's with someone that he can confide in. That is the true seduction of the mythical mistress. So be that secret keeper. The next emotional need, emotional number 7 for men, put us the couple first. If she's going to put her parents ahead of her spouse, he's not sticking around. If she's going to put her friends ahead of her spouse, he's not going to stick around. In popular culture today, we see more and more women being encouraged to say, no, you value your friends more than the man that you're with. You value your family more than the man that you're with. There's no incentive for men to get serious with a woman that doesn't understand that, listen, for him to choose you, that means he's making you a priority in his life. The exchange on that, the value for value in that is you're going to make him and the couple the priority in your life. And if you're not prepared to do that, you're pushing men away, because only an enemy would side against her own partner in favor of family and friends.
And what's 8, 9, and 10?
Emotional need number 8 for men is sex, the act of sex. Now, before we get into the whole debate of men are just more horny or men are just more, they just need sex more, there's something called oxytocin. It's a hormone that gets released. In women, oxytocin gets released in abundant quantities for a number of ways. A stimulating conversation for a woman can release that oxytocin in the brain. That's why the old adage of women fall in love with their ears. For a man, oxytocin is released in the brain in one of 2 ways. Full body long embraces that last at least 20 minutes. 20-minute full body long embrace. What's the other way? The act of sex. Masturbation alone won't do it. So whenever you're wondering why men seem to need sex, why men are always going for sex, it's one of the only 2 ways that a man gets significant amounts of oxytocin released in the brain. If you want to read more about this, the author is Dr. Steve Stosny. He does a seminar called Love Without Hurt, Intervention for Domestic Violence, and this is one of the things he presented to me at the seminar. So whereas, let's look at a romantic date. A romantic date with music and wine and poetry and candles and dancing and some kissing and it's everything is there and it's so wonderful and so romantic, but does not end in sex. A woman will receive a lot of oxytocin in the brain from that kind of experience. She can fall in love with that kind of experience. If it doesn't end in sex, the man walks away thinking, well, this was a failure of a night because he didn't receive any oxytocin in the brain for all of that effort. That's why, and I kid you not when I say this, the women of, let's say, the 1940s and 50s, when they were taught by their mothers, look, it's your job to make sure he's sexually satisfied so that he doesn't go elsewhere. It wasn't because, wasn't, although it may have been part of it, but it wasn't just because, well, it's an oppressive society and that's the way it is. It's because this is what men respond to. Every notorious player, and ladies, I want you to listen to me on this one. Every notorious player that has ever finally settled down and was actually faithfully monogamous to their long-term partner, when I interviewed them, when I sat down with them and studied under them, and I'm talking about even like the nastiest street pickup artist, pimp, you want to use whatever terminology, but you get the type of stereotype that I'm talking about. What's the one thing he says when it comes to the sex he's getting from his long-term partner? The response they all give, and this was across what they all give, I get what I want at home. When someone who has that abundance of choice, who has the assertiveness to go out and attract and pick up and continue to have the sexually abundant lifestyle, when they're making that choice to be monogamous and faithful, it's not just because, well, God told me to. It's not because they just found religion. It's because at home, they're getting what they want. Whatever the sex is for them that they need, they're getting what they want at home. Never underestimate how important sex is for men because of that oxytocin in the brain.
Interesting. So what's 9 and 10?
Okay, emotionally number 9. Find out what his definition of masculinity is. Every man has a masculine identity, what he defines as a man. Find out what his definition of, what does it mean to you to be a man? How do we define being a man? And whatever that definition is, support it, respect it, encourage it. So when he says, my job as a man is to open the door for you when you get into a car. Okay, let's say that's part of his identity. He wants to open the door for you when you get into the car. It's the woman who says, it's okay, I can do it myself. You don't have to open the door for me. It's not that there's anything wrong with him opening the door or for her opening the door for herself. But if his identity is tied, if his masculine identity is tied to him being able to do that and to open the door for a lady, and he doesn't get to experience that with you, you are violating his emotional need of masculine identity.
That's a biggie.
You are pushing him away to someone else. Emotional. And 10, every man, well, assuming he's heterosexual, is seeking some form of femininity. Femininity is made up to what he finds particularly attractive. So, and before you say, oh, it's because he wants a model from Hollywood, not necessarily. Guys like all kinds of things. Guys like curves. Whatever it is that he finds that turns him on, that he identifies as feminine. That's one of the things that femininity includes. An act of nurturing. Different men have different levels. Sometimes nurturing is a component of what men identify as femininity. And a big one right here, appreciation. Why would a nice guy do all kinds of things for a woman that just doesn't even give him the time of day? It's because on some level, she gives him some measure of appreciation, and that's what keeps him hooked.
So if
a man who's just to quickly here, a man who stops feeling appreciated by the woman he's with will never get his full commitment because he deems her an enemy.
Yes. I've heard the appreciation before. Yes, and it makes a lot of sense. And you just answered my question, which was, so the woman who wants the committed man needs to think about his emotional needs, right?
Yeah, she has to ask the question, if she wants his commitment, what is he getting in return? Her commitment is not enough if his emotional needs are not being met.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely, and vice versa. So, Frank, tell us again briefly, how do we find out more about you, and what's your free gift?
Okay, I'll start off by saying visit franktalks.com, franktalks with an S.com. Everything you ever wanted to know about me is there. Everything from my media appearances. Some of my media appearances will be up on there. All of my products, all of my books. I've written over 20 books at this point, audio programs, my blog, which has a few hundred articles for you to read. And the free gift I would like to offer some emotional needs workbooks. So the emotional need workbooks is where I give you a story, I give you the emotional needs, you'll do an analysis, and then at the back of the book, you can actually read to see if your analysis is correct. Women have used the emotional needs of men analysis workbook to help them figure out if they should stay with a guy or not, and to help them figure out how to get his commitment. And I've also got a workbook on the emotional needs of women that some of the women here may find interesting. The men listing will definitely get something out of it. It's written for men, but just as you have done in this last 2 episodes with you, you've started to see the emotional needs of women and how they factor into women's fantasies. And starting to make you more self-aware of your own emotional needs as a woman. This is going to give you a lot of opportunity to be able to communicate with men and women once you understand what their emotional needs are.
And what's that one thing you want to leave the listeners with from, we have had an amazing conversation both in this episode and the last one about the women's emotional needs and men's emotional needs. What would you say to a single woman out there that's looking for love and she's struggling?
Okay, it starts with you. Yeah. And this is not about going out there and putting on more makeup or getting a more sexy dress. Attention does not equal commitment. Okay, attention is great. It's a good starting point. Attention alone does not equal commitment. And if you haven't been successful in retaining someone's commitment, there is something you can do, and it's called put in the work. And it is work. Yeah. Forget this notion of, it just happens. It's never just happened.
No.
In the example we gave earlier about the romantic evening, somebody had to plan for all that. Someone had to prepare for all that. Someone had to be able to communicate, and if they didn't know how to communicate before, they had to learn how to communicate to do all that. It's never just happened.
No.
You got to get out there and you got to put in the work. And if you don't put in the work, you're going to continue to repeat the same behavior patterns that put you in the situation to begin with.
Frank, I love that you've ended with that. I know my own journey. I did the work to get there. This is why I'm in a 3-year relationship, now have a kid, and I went from struggling to a great relationship, and I did work. Yeah.
It takes work, but look at the rewards you got. You got a pretty awesome relationship. You got an awesome kid. I mean, in the end, all these accolades that we all achieve in other areas of their lives, just being happy and fulfilled in your own place of home, that's what brings inner peace.
Absolutely. And thank you, and thanks for being here, Frank.
It's been a pleasure. Take care.
Hey, I hope you really enjoyed our conversation today. Are you ready to fall in love with the right guy? Then join me at the Magnet for Love Facebook group. With me, your host, Lorna Poole. This is a safe haven of like-minded women where you and I can get intimate. I can give you the support, the guidance, and the know-how to go from this is never happening to me to falling in love with the right guy. So go over there. It's at the end of the show notes. It's on the website. Join our Facebook group. And it is www.facebook.com/groups/Magnet for Love X. Remember to put that X in there. So Magnet for Love X. See you there. Can't wait to get to know you better and give you that support. It's a really fun and active group. So see you there. Thank you for joining me on the Magnet for Love podcast. Excited and feeling ready to meet the man of your dreams, but don't know where to start? Do you feel like you have no idea what you're doing to get it right this time? Ready to get some answers? Then head on over to www LornaPoole.com. And let's get you living the life and love you've always dreamt of.